Welcome to Amplify, the podcast for accounting firm growth. I'm your host, Chris Camara. Today we're discussing SEO today and tomorrow with Brian Swanson, the Chief SEO Strategist with FlashPoint Digital Marketing. Brian, thank you so much for coming on the show today. But before we jump in, why don't you tell us a little more about yourself?
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you to all the listeners that are tuned in for this, what will be fun. We'll have some laughs, we'll shed some tears, and we'll all feel closer at the end of it. My name is Brian Swanson. I've been a member of AIM since 2005, I think. Well, at least that was my first AIM conference. And since that time, I've went from, sort of grown through my career with AIM at various stages to where I'm at now. I've worked as a marketing professional inside accounting firms, KPMG, a few other local firms, and now I'm working at FlashPoint Digital Marketing in SEO. Of course, when I started in this profession, SEO was very much an unknown, untapped marketing strategy, and I'm just so happy that the association and others in the industry are taking such a big interest in this, and it's been fun to see how digital marketing and search engine optimization has changed and how it's become an integral part of making a website a revenue generator for firms. What else about me? I don't know. I have a master's of business in finance and accounting, and just been around for a while, so I've gained some cool insights I hope to share with everybody today.
Roll out the red carpet. Celebrate your professionals. Be seen. At Ingenuity Marketing Group, we personalize your approach to attract talent and win business. In our world, accounting professionals are the celebrities. That means branding, PR, and content that ranks you higher. For visibility, faster marketing ROI, and more time in your day, contact our in-house specialists at ingenuitymarketing.com.
Okay, great. Thank you again, Brian. I really appreciate you coming on. So as the SEO expert here, let's dive in. So what should a firm know when it comes to starting SEO? What should they know?
So just a firm out of the box that's brand new to it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the first thing I want to say is there are stages or phases to SEO, much like if you were to train for a marathon, you don't go today and run 26 miles. Now, some of you may be laughing as if you're even going to try to run a marathon, but follow the analogy, which is there are appropriate steps and places where we have to go. And so what I find a lot that happens is a partner at a firm will find out that maybe someone in their market is generating some good dollars through SEO, through their website, and they kind of just want it all today. And given that we're an immediate gratification society, there's no surprise there. But I want to get you as the individual that's going to be doing the work, coordinating the work, overseeing the work, to really get an idea that there are phases. So the first phase is really evaluating your website. I found that in our work with a lot of firms is the principles of SEO are basically the same, regardless of the industry you're in, the business you're in. Doesn't matter. There are nuances for a retail business versus what we are, basically business to business or industry. But the first thing, what I'm saying, I'm encouraging you to evaluate your website. The reason why I'm saying this is because there are some content management systems or CMSs that are better suited for SEO than others. And what I mean by that is the tools available to you as the marketer are much more easily available. For example, on an open source CMS, say like WordPress, which as of the date of this recording, it may interest you to know that Google has a WordPress department. They've hired, I heard 2 years ago, they had hired like 61 former WordPress employees and programmers. And the reason why they did that is because such a high percentage of websites on the web are on the CMS WordPress. So you want to make sure, basically before you even get out of the block, that you can make the changes, the basic SEO changes on your website without having to spend a lot of money on getting customization made. You want to make sure you have the ability. For example, on HubSpot, we worked with a few firms in the past that have their website on HubSpot. WordPress offers more flexibility in terms of what you can optimize and how you can do it than HubSpot. And the reason why is HubSpot makes assumptions and has extra tools built in that will say automate that process a little bit. And for somebody in my position, I don't like that. I want full control. Maybe as someone new to the process, you like that and you're comfortable with it. It's okay. I just want to encourage you. We start by understanding what environment we're working in. So that's step one. Step two is once we've identified that we have a site that we can work with, a lot of folks think we need to start with keywords, and that's just not true. Although keywords are important, what we really need to start by asking ourselves before we do anything else is, what service line or industry line for our firm are we going to promote in the next year to year and a half? So if your firm has a niche with auto dealerships, that's an obvious answer. Yeah, we're going to focus on auto dealers. I have one client that focused heavily on insurance companies, and so a lot of their efforts are directed towards insurance companies. So the next thing you really want to do is once you've validated the site can, it's easy to make SEO changes, you need to have a punch list of 3 or 4 service lines or areas that you're going to focus on in the coming, year. And the reason I bring that up is because a very important part of SEO, more now than ever, particularly because of generative AI, which is the experimental version of Google's use of artificial intelligence in generating search results. They're looking for what they call high quality content or higher quality content. And so you can't optimize content that doesn't exist, right? It's not possible. So we as the marketing person at a firm, we need to understand where we want to go. These are the 3 areas or 6 areas we want to target in a year. And then we really need to look at the site and understand where we need more content. Now, most people will say, or commonly I hear, oh, that means blogs. But that doesn't, it does, yes, at some point mean written text, but it doesn't always mean we start there. All right, Brian, so then where do we start? Well, we start by looking at the service and industry pages themselves. Do they have a sufficient amount of content to adequately describe to our target buyer what we do, who we are, and how we can help? If they don't have that, the language is too general, the page is less than 300 words on it, and it speaks kind of vaguely, talks about things, it's just not going to work. Because the reason why is Google is looking to measure 4 things about your website. This is an important acronym to remember. If you're listening to this at your desk or somewhere where you can write this down, I highly encourage you to do that. It's EEAT. And these are basically the 4 pillars to the stool, if you will, of Google's how they evaluate content. And it stands for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. I realize I should pause there if people are writing, so I try to slow down at the end. And I'll get into this a little bit more later, but one of the functions of your site is to prove that you have the experience and the expertise you say you have. So that before we can prove we have it, we have to make sure we say it correctly. So that's step 2. Look at the industry, the service pages. Are they saying the right things? Do they read nicely? Are they cogent? And does it have a compelling call to action? This is the gold standard. So if you have 3 of the 4 things, that's all right. I'm a very practical person, and I realized we have to start where you are or where we are. That's how we start. And we want to hit the best practice, but if we can't right away, we don't just stop. We keep going, knowing that we'll come back to that later. So once you have that in place, then we start looking at content, the type of content we're going to develop. And oftentimes that may not be up to you exclusively, but I'll just make a few general statements about that. One is the more generic the content, the less beneficial it will be for SEO. Why? Because if you have a niche in dealership accounting, you should be speaking about the issues and challenges, updates, anything meaningful to somebody that would be your target buyer. Now, you can't always get that because we live in reality and partners won't write when we want them to, or maybe we need to outsource it and that's going to take time, or we have staff members that are writing and we need to edit it. I get it. Believe me, I understand. But we should know what we're aiming for. And once you have an influx of this content, or you start to have a regular drip of content coming into you, then we get into the basics of optimization and keyword research. And that would really be the next step. So once you've set up content, your content marketing schedule, or at least you have made some progress that you're going to have content coming in, the next step then is to research some just general keywords that relate to your service, industry or service line. And then we would get into what we would call the blocking and tackling of on-page SEO. Now, the difference between, so now you might be thinking, well, what is on-page SEO? And what's different from that? So on-page SEO is basically anything that an individual marketer will do on a site that makes the site more searchable, indexable, and appealing to the search engines. I will say for this podcast that I speak almost exclusively of Google because they account for something of like 87% of the search traffic on the internet. But I do know there's Bing, there's Yahoo, DuckDuckGo, at least as of the time of this recording. I don't know what new ones will come in the future. So you'll hear me speak a lot about Google, and that's why. And so on-page SEO is going to be things like meta description, meta title, heading tags on a page, internal link structure. Do pages link to each other? How are they linking to each other? Et cetera, et cetera. As an example, we tell all of our clients, look, on a blog post, you should link to 3 places. One, and if possible, an outside authority source. So let's say we're writing a blog on the latest IRS ruling. That blog should link externally to the IRS actual ruling document. I know sometimes you can't do it for every single piece of content you write, but these are the general rules. Number 2 is you should link to the service or industry page at which this most applies to. So let's say this is a tax thing, you're going to link to the tax page on your site. And then the third thing, and again, if it's possible, you want to link to another tax blog or another blog that's in principle aligned with the subject matter of this blog. And usually those are past blogs. So why do this? One, we're doing this because we want to give context to Google or the search engine about what this information is about. 2, we want to give a backlink, an internal backlink to our service or industry page, so Google knows these things are connected. And 3, we're going to link to an older blog post because links that go to older blog posts are votes in the mind of the search engine that this content is still relevant. And the very last stage, and I know that the question was, what should I think about when I'm starting, but I'm kind of giving you the overview, is off-page SEO. And off-page SEO involves all sorts of different things like soliciting links from other accounting firms or other places, on and on and on. I don't want to get too much into that part because it's probably the part that clients, or at least firms we work with for 5 or 6 years, they're now just starting to focus on that aspect of it. So just to give you an idea of, where you're going to start, it's really going to be formulating a strategy, kind of putting the puzzle pieces on a page. It's not going to be just running into the website and starting to optimize. I really want to encourage folks to, set a bit of an idea of where they want to go, and then slowly put the pieces together for how we're going to get there.
So you talked about keywords. How important are they in the whole SEO strategy?
Today, keywords are less important than they were 5 years ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, and the reason why is nobody in AIM would ever do this, but crazy bad actors have used keywords to manipulate search engines since the very beginning. So it's not that they're ignored, because they're not, but it's just they're less important. Now, why do I say that? Well, the reason why is you may recall from just a few moments ago, I mentioned that the first step I said was to understand where you're going to focus your content and then work up getting content generated. I didn't start with keywords. And the reason why I did that is because there's 2 philosophies in the nerdery or the nerd school of SEO. One is, of which I am a member, so I'm basically calling myself a nerd. No one should be offended. One is keywords drive content. So I'm going to go out and do keyword research, and my partner wants to write up business valuation. So I'm going to do a bunch of research on what the keywords are, and then basically use those keywords to tell my partner what to write about. That's one way of doing it. But the other way that I favor is content should drive keywords. And the reason I say this is it's a little bit more natural. So if I say to you, Chris, you're the partner in charge of, I don't know, audit. Can you write a blog on, the essential, how to prepare for an audit? Pulling keywords out of that, to me, is a better way of going at it than using keyword research to dictate the content development schedule. Now, that doesn't mean we shouldn't have a core set of keywords for every service and industry that we want to rank on. These things kind of go rail by rail, like they're two rails of it on the same track. So my first point is there's two ways to work with keywords when it comes to content marketing. One is that keywords drive content. The other one is content drives keywords. I favor content drives keywords. Once you get to a point where you're humming along and you got, 24 blogs over a year and a half period, you're starting to see some traffic, then you can switch to keyword research. This is how I would do it. Put more of an emphasis on keyword research and start using the keywords to drive the blog topics. Okay. Aside from that, there should be keyword research completed for all the major services and industries that the firm offers, such that you have 6 or 7 terms that you want whatever the content you want to rank for when it comes to dealership accounting or construction accounting, so that every piece of blog content that gets released, you can find a way to naturally work that term in here or there within the content, and then you use it within the SEO data as well. So you may have a blog on 10 best practices for dealership accountants, and then you may slip in a keyword or two about dealership accounting firms, dealership CPA firms, whatever it might be. But to go back to the original question, or my original statement that keywords are less important, it's because of this update that I mentioned before. I mentioned EEAT. You'll hear it more. That came from an update in October 2023, which Google calls the helpful content update, where they have basically said they're going to give differential treatment to sites that do a better job of demonstrating experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. Nowhere in there are keywords mentioned. So I look at it as a hierarchical process. We have to start at the top and work down. One thing I will share, which is this: Google can, from time to time, will say things and then do the opposite. I'll give you one example real quick for our listeners. 3-4 years ago, the total character limit on the meta description field is 160 characters. But I think it was 4 years ago, they said, no, we're going to double that limit. So now it was, I don't know, maybe it wasn't double, it was like 280 or something like that. And then 2 months later, they went back to the original. So here we changed them all, and now Google changed its ruling, what they want, and we had to go back. So when Google gives guidelines, you just treat them as guidelines. Don't treat it as letter of the law, because sometimes what they say always isn't what they mean, or what they're saying to you is meant to benefit them completely. And to comply 100% might not be practical, and that's okay. The idea is we're going for, we're trying to imbibe the principle of what they're asking for.
So let's talk conversions. How do you get conversions? What are you seeing firms do with the most success?
Well, I think for conversions, it depends on what type of conversion you're going for. So it's easy to get top of the funnel convert. I mean, everybody starts with top of the funnel, right? Contact us. You want to buy today. Here you go. Get in here. We'll qualify you. And, here's Chris Camara calling you on the phone. Those kind of conversions, everybody's website should be set up for. And I think what we could talk about are conversion, maybe best practices on a website. That might be helpful. It's important to note here that I haven't said it, I've sort of danced around it with my wording, that SEO is a lot more than keywords, and I'm going to tell you why. because search engines also evaluate the user experience or the UX of a website when determining whether or not that content from that website should rank. As an example, to demonstrate this point, Google has what's called page speed insights. How fast the page loads is now a ranking factor for how high your content can rank. They have another thing called Core Web Vitals, which basically works hand in hand with page speed insights. So if you fail all of those metrics and your page is slower to load, it's going to be harder for you to rank, regardless of what you say on the site. So this question that's been posed here is as much an traditional SEO question as it is a user experience question. And I think that there's a couple of things we want to cover here. Number one is that we need to make sure on every service and industry page on our website, we have two types of calls to action. One is take action now, and two is a middle of the funnel call to action, which is you're not ready to buy today. So what is it I can give you or do for you or offer you to make that connection with us? And this manifests now in the form of white paper downloads. I don't see so many ebooks on accounting for websites, but that's a broader example. More, I'm seeing things like excerpts from webinars on a particular a hot topic, maybe an annual event that you hosted where you had some well-known. I have one client that brings in this really well-known economist, and not everybody is allowed to see that. Like, you can't just get access to that by showing up. You have to give them your name. You have to give something to get that. And that's because it's a compelling piece of content. These sort of things, as I mentioned earlier, when and where practical, should appear on all the service and industry pages, okay? On the blogs, a good call to action would be subscribe to our blog in the middle of the blog post, in addition to somewhere on there, contact us. Now, in terms of what we're seeing doing really well with just, getting somebody into the site, what we're seeing are tactics and strategies around local SEO, presenting your service in a location where you may not have a geographical footprint has been very useful when conducted effectively. So I'll give you an example. We have a client in the West Coast, and by the way, I'm only speaking about us because that's the case I know better. There are certainly other companies that probably have other A members that do this service that have just as good of, interesting case studies. Where we did some local SEO in areas where they didn't have a physical presence for benefit plan audits. And in the first year, I think we launched that, they got something like 12 inquiries. And now in year 3, they got 52. And it's because we've paired the service term with a location term, and have built out some organic landing page type content. So for those listening to on this podcast that use a product like HubSpot, where you can build out these really nice, they even have templates that you can follow to build out a landing page like that. You should seriously consider how to do that. And remember, the idea is you're going local. So you're going to pick, I don't know, if you're in Chicago, you offer a service that can be delivered anywhere, then you start picking, my conventional logic says, at least I do, I start with more major metropolitan areas around wherever my client is. And we just get real specific with areas, and specific about the service and specific about the area. Mm-hmm. And that has led to significant dollars. I'll say that. Hundreds of thousands of dollars for clients.
So what are pillar pages and landing pages? Let me ask you to back up a little bit. What are they, and how can a firm use them successfully? Tell us a little more about that.
Sure. So a pillar page, or what's HubSpot's word for it? I can't remember their name for it. Maybe it's not pillar page, but anyways, a pillar page is a page that typically contains, it's the central page on your website for a particular topic. And generally what that page looks like is it's several thousand words. It covers multifarious aspects of a particular topic. So for example, if you were to say, I want to make a pillar page on the R&D tax credit. Great. So what a page like that might include is what is the R&D tax credit, who's eligible for the R&D tax credit, what are recent changes to the R&D tax credit, what are the different types of R&D tax credits you can claim, Section 174 versus IRC Section 72, what are the rules for both of those types of credits, recent developments or changes to each of those types of credits. Then you might also see on a page like that in a state-by-state analysis of which state offers a state-based R&D tax credit, along with links to each of the Department of Revenues, and one paragraph description of the credit, and maybe just who's eligible to get it and how much. So the idea, as you hear me talking, probably your eyeballs are popping out of your head thinking, I can't develop that level of content. Maybe not. R&D tax credit tends to be a little complicated, a little more technical than other topics. But I just use that to demonstrate the idea of the type of content and the level of comprehensiveness that should be in a page like that. Pillar pages are meant to be all-encompassing. Now, what's the function of a pillar page? Because I get this a lot from clients because they're like, nobody's going to read. They're like, come on, Brian, what are you talking about? No one's going to read a 5,000-word page on R&D tax credit. Nobody we want to buy has got that kind of, to buy from us has got that kind of time. And that's probably the truth. But the function of the R&D, in this example, the function of the pillar page is to, beyond any any reasonable doubt, ever in any way, demonstrate to Google and to your reader that you are the authorities on this topic. If not the authority, you certainly know what you're talking about. Why is that important? Well, it's important because it goes back to that EEAT. We want to make sure we've checked the authoritativeness box. Publishing that type of content is only one step. There's a second step, which is we eventually, over time, it doesn't happen right away, want other people in the industry or people that are looking for that service that have websites that talk about the R&D tax credit to link to us. Why is that important? Because backlinks from other sites to our site are a vote or a sign that I am someone that can be trusted and have some level of knowledge about the topic. That checks two boxes in Google's EEAT. And even if it didn't, it's just logically speaking, it makes sense. We want to be that kind of firm. We want to demonstrate that level of knowledge. Now, something to go into a little bit about pillar pages. They used to have years ago this thing called the George Foreman oven, and you would just set it and forget it. SEO is not set it and forget it. And Lord help me, neither are pillar pages. Occasionally they need to be refreshed and updated. And so that's something that to keep in your mind about a pillar page if you do happen to build one of those out. The difference between a pillar page and an organic landing page, or any landing page, is that a pillar page talks about the subject in great detail. The function of that page is to generate authority and backlinks. The function of the landing page is to generate sales or leads. So what is that? Well, what does that look like? Well, generally landing pages are, at least subject matter-wise, they're laser focused in the sense that there's a cogency and a cohesiveness to how one moves the reader into the call to action. And what that means is, practically speaking, you have an introduction paragraph, you have a title to the page, call it whatever you want. Then you have the introduction. And in the introduction, we state the issue, the challenge, or the problem. We tease the solution. So paragraph 1 is, this is why you should care, with a little discussion on how I can help you. Paragraph 2 is details about, in this case, claiming the R&D tax credit, maybe some things you need to know to self-qualify. So that's providing some insight into what the solution is. And then in the third or fourth paragraph, we're talking about my firm as a solution to your problem. I love to see on effective organic landing pages have one of two things. They need social proofing on them because we're asking someone to convert with only seeing one page. So we have to kind of think of this page as a page that overcomes objections. I mean, there's no two-way communication, so we have to do our best to overcome the objections that a normal, reasonable, and logical person might have, which is, okay, who are these? Why do I care? And then why should I pick this particular firm to do the job? And so that means there are two assets that are important on all these pages, if you have them. One are testimonials, because testimonials give someone insight into what it's like to work with you. A plug out to another AIM member, they'll be happy to hear this. There's a clearly rated survey that goes on, I think, every year, at least as of the time of this recording, it happens every year. A lot of our clients like to put, that's sort of like a system where you get rated for the quality of working with your firm. If you have a good clearly rated score, get it on there. It's just because what they do, which is really unique and cool, is you can plug in, or not plug in, but they have this little widget and it's like clearly rated plus different, stars out of 5. So people know what stars are, they know what they mean. You have a lot of stars, it just looks great for you, And then the last thing you may want to consider is logos to industries that, to professional societies or associations that your firm belongs to that are relevant to the service. And then the last thing is the actual conversion or call to action, which is usually contact us. And here's something I've learned over the last year, which I didn't think was right, but time and my client consistency have actually proven me wrong. Right now in 2024, we're in a time period where there's more work than most firms have the staff to do it. Hopefully this will change soon, but as of today, it's not like that. So when a lead comes in through a website, they really want to know the lead is qualified. Well, how do you do that? The only way that I know how to do that today is ask more questions in the contact form. And those questions need to be qualifying questions. So you don't ask 100, you ask 2. And those 2 would be decided by you and the service partner or the individual that does the work that you're looking for. That does the work for the person, the type of work you're looking for. And it should be 2 quick questions. And from looking at the answers to those, it should easily help you to understand whether or not this organization or this prospect is a good fit for our firm. In addition to the, what's your name, what's your phone number, where do what's your company name, what service, maybe what industry you're in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You should always have 1 or 2 qualifying questions. Now, when I was taught how to do these things years ago, it was make it as easy as possible for everybody to get a hold of you. But now it's changed. Like, wait a minute, we don't really want everybody. We just want the right everybody's. And that takes a little more work. So just in summary, pillar pages are longer. Purpose of those are to generate authority, ideally backlinks, generate to be a one-stop source of information on all aspects of a topic. Or a landing page, whether it's for paid or organic or whatever it's for, you're attempting to convince somebody to take an action by looking at one single page. By the way, organic pages or these landing pages, they do not include at the top of the page the menu structure for your website. So that's an important distinction. We don't want the user coming to this page to be able to leave it to go to other parts of your website. Why? Because I want them to convert on this page. That's important for tracking. So we eliminate most of their options, go to other parts of the site. We give them 1 or 2 conversions, and then we let go and see what happens.
So let's talk about Gen AI. How is that impacting search today, and what's your prediction for the future?
Oh, well, I keep hearing how SEO is dead or it's on its way out, and I'm not buying into that quite yet. So let's talk about how AI is currently used. Surprise, Google's been using AI for years in determining search rankings. So I'll give you an example, Chris. If you and I both have a piece of content on AIM, no, let's make it crazier, clown accounting, and you are ranked 1 and I'm ranked 2 on that page, say for a week. Now, it's reasonable to believe if my listing got 100,000 clicks and yours got 1, that you wouldn't stay number one for long, right? I mean, that makes sense. So Google's been using AI to track number of clicks for years to change who is ranked 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it's called machine learning. And they've been doing that because based on real-time results, they want to give you, the user, the best result based on real-world data. So let's look at AI in terms of how search engines generate results. And Google uses what's now in beta test. Probably by the time people hear this, it'll probably be part of the regular search engine. And it's called Search Generative Experience. And it's just another acronym that Google made up that we have to follow. But what it means is there are 3 types of things that Search Generative Experience will give you when you conduct a search. You may know that right now Google has things like featured snippets. People also ask, these are called rich text results. And what they're attempting to do with these current rich text results is to give you an answer without you having to leave Google to get it. Why? Because they want to show, Google's in the business of making money. This is an important point. So it's in their financial best interest to keep displaying their ads as long as possible to you, the searcher. So they do that. Now, the great thing about rich text results is that anybody who ranks well for them, their click-through rate from Google, it just explodes. Now, the next step in this process is search generative AI. And this search generative AI basically provides informational summaries on topics that you enter into Google. So what does that mean? So if I type in, CPAs Los Angeles, it's going to give me in the search generative result 3 to 6 of the CPA firms in Los Angeles that are, I guess, maybe are rated the best. The AI algorithm is going to work that out, which ones to present. Or a more practical example might be, I just type in your firm name. And when I type in your firm name, I just ran a client through this the other day to demonstrate how this works. They being Google, go to various sources available on the web and use AI to basically give an answer or to give a summary of what the firm is about. And what's interesting about that is in several of the case studies I've run, or several of the times I've demonstrated this to clients, they don't go to the firm's website to generate information. They go to places like Glassdoor, LinkedIn, Better Business Bureau, such and such Chamber of Commerce, to give you general information to answer that query. And now what's kind of cool about generative AI is underneath, it'll say ask a follow-up question, and it will give you prompts what to ask, or you can type in your own question. Mind you, all of this circumvents the traditional SERP, or search engine results page structure that we're all, at least as the time of this recording, we're used to. Ads start, and then underneath ads are the organic results. This sits above all that. So to a person who's thinking about the future, the question is, well, if that's going to sit on top, then how in the world do I get my results to be picked up by Google AI? That's the big question, right? And Google's given us very little guidance on that, other than to say at this time, follow EEAT, produce high quality content, and you, sooner or later, you will rank in our search generative experience, depending on what the query is. That's what they've given us. So now, again, you hear this EEAT. Why? Because at the end of the day, EEAT is, at least for Google, we have to be thinking about that if we want to rank for this future AI, Google Search Generative or Google Search AI experience. There's also another feature which isn't so much of an issue for marketers, but I want you to know that it exists. And it's a tool that basically will summarize any piece of content. They'll use AI to read the whole thing and summarize it into 3 or 4 or 8 bullet points. So when we're writing content, we want to make sure, if we know Google is summarizing things into bullet points, it might be a good idea for us to use bullet points, or to structure our content in such a way that we say, here are the key takeaways. In other words, write content in a format that's AI friendly, knowing how Google is going to use this. knowing that we want to rank in that top spot to be used as a source, what's the best way we can format this information? Now, the other aspect of this is AI as a search engine. And I've seen it. There's two big AI platforms right now. I mean, there are probably hundreds, but the two that are promoted by the search engines are ChatGPT, which uses Bing as its search engine when it gives sources or where it gets its information from. And the other one is called used to be called Bard. What did they just rename it to? I'm not going to remember. Anyways, it's the Google version. It used to be called Bard. They literally changed it just 2-3 weeks ago. And when you use Bard AI, it gives you sources from the Google search engine. I don't think now, at least yet, there's going to be a wholesale abandonment of the traditional methods of search to use AI. And the reason why is because, number one, there are a lot of documented problems with AI. In fact, there was just one the other day with the AI image generator on one of the big search engines that was drawing inappropriate photos. There was I think there was something not too long ago where it was ChatGPT, if I'm not mistaken, for like 3 hours, their AI platform was just spitting out complete nonsense. So I don't see it yet changing how we search. But even if it does, even if we go into a time where AI is accounting for more of the traffic, it's not going to replace SEO, because now the next question is, well, if Bard is where all the searches are coming from, all right, so how do I rank in Bard? What do I need to do to get my content ranked in Bard? So you see this shift is going away from what keywords do I need to rank for on Google to how do I get my content ranked in X, Y, and Z. And that's why I said at the beginning of this, keywords are less important than they were 5 years ago. And I suspect if we were to meet again in 2029, that I'd probably say that keywords are even less important than they were these years ago. On the flip side, I just want to touch on one more thing here, which is using AI to generate content, because it's an important topic. Google has come out and issued 2 pieces of guidance on that. And I'll just say, for those who are using AI to generate content, that it all comes down to value and uniqueness. So if the results of your AI efforts aren't creating something of value and creates a unique value proposition, it's going to have very little impact on your search results. And the reason why is that Google's looking for high quality content, and what makes high quality content is high value to users. So I think another way to answer this question is, whereas in the past there were marketers that specialized just in SEO, I think at some point that may transition into a different job title, where it's not just SEO, where it's, and what some firms have these people, but there's a digital marketer as part of a team of marketers whose focus is figuring these things out, understanding these micro concepts. I mean, in full transparency, that's why we get hired, or agencies like us get hired, because the marketing department doesn't have that level of knowledge, and rightfully so. I mean, they're being asked to accomplish multiple tasks as accounting marketers. It's not just digital, it's events, it's this, it's that. There's a lot for you all to do. I get it. But I'm just saying that at some point, the marketing department of the future in an accounting firm is going to have a full-time digital marketer and probably one or two full-time writers.
Yeah, I can see that, because content is what you've been talking about throughout the whole conversation. Yeah. So thank you, Brian. You've given us a ton of information, and my brain is hurting right now. So no, it's okay. I think our listeners are going to get so much out of this. So, but before we close, let me ask you if there's anything else you'd like people to know about, perhaps some upcoming event or program.
Well, I have blue eyes. Oh, wait, sorry. No, I have two important things coming up. One is we're working right now as an association, myself and 2 or 3 other people that I think are extremely talented individuals in SEO on the AIM SEO certification program. And I think it's going to be released later this year in 2024, maybe, yeah, probably this year. And it's going to cover a lot of the concepts we've talked about today in greater detail. So if that's an area of interest for you, when that comes out, I highly recommend you check it out. It's not just me talking. There's going to be other people. I think it's 8 or 12 core sections or components. Obviously, the future of AI is going to be one of them. You know, how to optimize your site from day one is one of the beginning sections. You're going to get a lot out of that, especially if you're new to this topic. And then later on this year, for the AIM 2024 conference in Orlando, I'll be presenting a micro learning session, which is a 20-minute presentation, and I'm going to be talking about SEO in 2024. So if you're hearing this before then, come on down to my session. My name's Brian Swanson. We always get a few good laughs. If not, you just see me laughing at myself like a fool, but I always try to get a few laughs. And those are probably the two most relevant things that are coming up now.
Okay, thanks, Brian. So let the audience know how best to get in touch with you or find out more about FlashPoint.
Sure. So the best way to get a hold of me is to you can email me at bswanson, BSWANSON, at flashpointmarketing.biz. Or you can call me 954-621-8080. Or alternatively, you can check out our website at flashpointmarketing.biz. I also accept smoke signals and blimps over my hometown, whatever you want.
Okay, thanks, Brian. That's it for this episode of Amplify, the podcast for accounting firm growth. A big thanks to all of you for listening in today. If you like what you heard, we'd love a review on the podcast platform you are listening to us on now. And be sure to listen to the other episodes in the Digital Lead Gen season. You can learn more about Amplify in our past seasons on accountingmarketing.org. Look for the podcast under publications. If you'd like to learn more about me, reach out on LinkedIn at Chris Camara, that's Chris with a C and Camara, or you can email me at ccamara@ipainsider.com. Thanks again. We look forward to having you join us for another episode soon.